Today we're going to take a look at a tune that everyone is familiar with called Norwegian Wood. And this is sort of still embarking on a series of intelligent rhythm playing where we incorporate the rhythm and melody and are always aware of both of those elements. Here's the chart. And it's in the key of E. And so I was going with my internal memory and thinking, how does this tune go again? And so I thought, start, and then I just sort of read what was here. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. That works. I guess that's what, the part that George would have played, right? And then I went to the next section and keeping the melody, in mind. And then F minor. And I thought to myself, gee, it feels from a guitaristic perspective. This feels somehow too complicated, especially the 2-5 progression. I thought that was, like an F minor 7 to a B7. And then when you start voicing those chords, they just don't make sense in that pop rock rhythm style kind of thing. And so I started thinking, is this the right key? And you could make it sound okay, but guitaristically, like how it sits underneath your fingers, and the chord voicings you're using. Don't seem to really be they're just not quite there. So I'm going to come up with an alternative way to play this shortly. But before I do, let's just do a quick harmonic analysis of this. We're in the key of E, tells us that by the 4 sharps. We're in 6/8 time. 6/8 time is a different, an interesting thing. You're not going to be playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. 6/8 time amounts to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, like that. There's 2 strong beats, one on the 1 and one on the 4. So it feels like a lilting 2. If you're used to counting 6/8, you're going to count it 1, 2, 1, 2, like that, right? And that's what's going to feel natural. It's got a beautiful, lilt and flow to it. Lots of Celtic tunes are in 6/8. Harmonically speaking, we have a 1 chord. We're in the key of E. I'm going to call this a D chord and make the assumption that maybe the B was being played in the bass. It's a D chord. It's a flat 7 major chord. It sounds right. If you're just playing a rhythm part, so we're going to call that a flat 7 major chord. But this is what really interests me is the parallel minor. So we move to the parallel minor key. Now we're in the key of E minor, not the key of E major anymore. So we have modulated, and we call this parallel minor. I'm saying that over and over again because it's such a big deal for you songwriters out there. If you want to write songs, you're not going to learn how to write songs unless you take songs that you think are great songs, and this is one, and it's a simple tune, and analyze them, understand what's happening in the harmony. Because the harmony is going to also indicate where the melody is going to go. So we have a parallel minor 1 chord, E minor, and then we go to the 4 major chord, which is a Dorian 4 chord. It comes from the Dorian mode. If we were in E Aeolian, this would be A minor, for instance, right? Remembering that chords come from scales, okay, and then E minor, and then that 2/5, which I sort of think is is a bit of a stretch, but it's just a 2/5 progression leading back to the 1. Now, there's another thing that now I want to mention before I go on to this next portion, which is going to be a different way to play this same tune. There are charts like this all over the web, right? And this isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not written by a guitar player. Surprise, surprise, and the key's right. The chords are, like, I guess you could justify the chords if you took all the parts that are being played. But we're talking just about the guitar and guitar voicings that are guitaristic. That means that they're comfortable and normative when it comes to playing rhythm parts in this style. So I didn't find this and don't find this chart guitaristic. And it doesn't quite cut it. But there are charts like this all over the web that are basically, fall short a little bit. And that's not to say that tablature is an improvement on this, because it's definitely not. Tablature is, if you know how the tune goes, and if you want to learn a sort of a rather something that's almost like the recording, you can probably do that, but then you still don't understand what you're doing, and that's a real problem. And tablature doesn't reference the time signature either. Real problem. It doesn't tell us what key we're in, and so on. So it's actually a system that went out of style around the 16th century, and has sort of come back and reared its head again. So this type of chart, the look of this chart looks like it's a good chart, but it hasn't been written by a guitar player. So let's just move on to that next section. I'm going to take this capo and I'm going to put it on 2nd fret, and I'm going to play a D chord shape. Now this D chord shape is of course going to be an E, because I've moved up 2 frets, right? And now the part becomes okay, so that feels good, and it's sort of fun to play. Everything falls underneath my fingers, and that's it. I mean, I'm just convinced that that's it. It's not played down in the open E position. And when you go to the next section, the parallel minor, we've got this melody that sits on the bottom now. There's my 4 chord, the G, right? The G major, the major 4 chord. I've got this pedaled D, right, which just works great. And I just forget the 2 chord that's in this chart here. I'm just playing the 5 chord and leading back to the 1 chord. Right, and I think that all works pretty good. This movement here, to the 4 major, as I said. major, and then the D. This note here is basically the flat 7 major chord. Okay, so this is a D returning to E. The same thing that we've got happening here, right? When I said this was a D. So keeping in mind that everything has moved up, and we're effectively, obviously, if you know, we're not playing a D chord anymore, we're playing E. This is not a C, right, as it would be down here, but it's a D now. So returning back to the E. So that's a very, very comfortable part. And then as I was noodling around with this, I thought, wow, it's just so D. You know, everything is like in you know, it feels like the key of D, obviously, even though I've moved it up. There are so many tunes that use the D shape and the related chords. And these would be guitarisms, right? We're just used to hearing those voices and used to hearing those sounds. Often what happens is when you're playing in using these voicings, and I think that I'm thinking in the key of D here, obviously, you know, it doesn't matter if I've got a capo one or not. It seems to make sense to drop the D. So if I drop that D, I want to get it right into pitch, okay? I end up with the same part, but now I've got this big one, this big D ringing on the bottom. Yeah, and that's just, that becomes another sort of level, you know, that you start to, now you're working on your own guitar part, right? Even just with these little changes. And when you do something like the middle section, oops, that doesn't work, does it? But that works because I have to bring it up 2 frets, right, to move along with the capo. And then here. And then again, right? Okay. So that's just with a drop D. So just to recap, when you see charts on the internet, don't necessarily trust them. Trust your ear and listen to the original recordings. And not to say that what the ultimate goal is to reproduce exactly what the original recording is, because that becomes like classical music. What you want to do is get an idea of how the original was played, why it was played the way it was played, and then try to add to it. Use your own ideas, and before you know it, you could end up with a really nice guitar part. And I find that when you build guitar parts, they're already on the road to building a guitar solo, building a solo arrangement, and this is a lovely tune to work on. All right, so when you think of a tune like this, don't only look at it for the guitar part itself, but look at what's happening in terms of the harmonic analysis, like what's happening in the chord progression, and how could I use the same ideas in a tune that I write, or in a guitar part, or whatever the case might be. And so be able to analyze, do a quick analysis of whatever it is you're playing. Go beyond just putting your fingers in the right places, right? To sound like, a recording. That's only a very small part of what it is to build an intelligent rhythm part, and to think intelligently about harmony and rhythm. Remember that when you're using a capo, the chords change names. So that's sort of important when you're playing with other people. Very important. So you have to know the new key that you're in, and guitar players tend to think in shapes, but that's not always going to work. Okay, see you soon. Thanks for stopping by.